Hey guys, welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the CNC process of building because I think that's something that I don't really cover a lot in my episodes. So this one, we're going to show a little bit more of it. In front of you here, you can see the waste board that I do all my CNCing on, and this weird blue stuff that you guys might have seen in the last episode is something new that I'm trying. It is what is called machinable wax, or some people call it machining wax. It's basically paraffin with a little bit of plastic in it. And to give you an idea of what kind of plastic, you can actually make this stuff yourself. I haven't tried yet, but it's a little bit of paraffin wax, and then you can recycle like plastic bags that you'd get from the grocery store, and you'd melt them in with the wax, and it creates this wax. This stuff's dyed blue, but I'm sure it would come out like a white color, and it's actually a pretty brittle, hard wax. But the reason I like it is because I can take and stick metal pieces down to my waste board, and then to get them off, I heat it up and then just pull them out of there, which doesn't risk bending the parts. When I use the paper tape that I like to use, that stuff comes with a risk of warping and bending parts. So I'm going to be using this stuff for this component of the project, where we're going to go ahead and build the top of the cab and then the back of the cab, and then I think if we have time, we'll also build the base of the cab. So let's get started. So first thing I got to do here is I want to put a little bit more of this wax down, just because I've been using a lot of it lately, and it's kind of dissipated a bit. Gets stuck to the stuff that I work on, then it comes off and it flattens out more and more, and then I'm going to heat it up with the heat gun. But before I do so, I'm going to cover it with this, because the heat gun will actually blow these little pieces away. So just lay this stuff out where I'm going to need it. That should be plenty. Don't need to use too much. We're also going to get out one of our machining blocks to add a little bit of weight to hold it down once we get it heated up. I should probably get a glove too. Don't want to burn my fingers. I'm going to save myself a little bit of a headache here, and I'll take a little piece of scrap and raise the other end. You can see it's already starting to stick, just to give it a little bit more level. Not enough to burn me yet. But I gotta make sure it's relatively lined up. It doesn't need to be perfect, but I want it to at least be parallel enough. Very good. All right, the bit I'm putting in right now is a smaller diameter, so I'm gonna have to change out the little part that retains it as well. Different diameter on the inside. This is the engraving bit that we'll be using later, and then this is the bit that I'm going to use to cut with. Now the next thing I need to do is zero my machine. What this will do is give it a reference point for where to start. Alright, I had to add a little bit more wax. There wasn't enough under there, so I put some more of that in there, re-leveled the piece, and then set the zero. When I'm filming and trying to show you guys the metal getting cut out, I usually leave this open and exposed. But for the sake of keeping things nice and clean so that I'm getting cleaner cuts, I like to put on this little vacuum shoe, which basically creates a little bit of a breathable seal, and then all the material gets sucked up through here and up into my shop vac. Right, so close the plexiglass doors. I'm going to fire it up now because I want to let it warm up. And we'll turn on the vacuum as well. I'm going to load what are called G codes. I have them organized here in a folder. So we're going to find the correct one here. Make sure we got the right tools selected. Start the job. I'm going to reduce the feed rate because I want to make sure we're not going too quickly. Yes, we have the right tool in there. Yes, we're running at the right speed. Go time. Alright, so here it is. Not quite as deep as I wanted. Because it's on the wax, it's not perfectly level. So it went a little bit deeper in these cuts up here, but this is a little bit shallower. This is probably about as thick as like aluminum foil, which if I want I can just go back with the X-Acto blade and cut it, but I don't really feel like doing that. So I'm just going to go back into the file and tell it to do another pass just a little bit deeper. Again, I could probably cut that with the blade right now, but I want to get in the habit of making sure I have this thing cut through it all the way. So for the second pass, I just told it to start at the depth that it left off at, and then just go another 0.5 millimeter down. So hopefully it will retrace its steps and not goof anything up. Alright, and after a third pass, we're looking pretty good. Alright, now I have the engraving bit installed and the machine is zeroed back up. So now it is time to begin engraving. That is not the path that I wanted it to go on. So I'm not entirely sure what just happened there. I may have had the wrong file loaded, but that's why I have an emergency stop rigged up on it. So I'm going to go recheck the file, make sure I put the right one in there, and then see what exactly went wrong. Alright, so I figured out what happened. I had two files that were very similarly named. One was the first iteration of the lines that I did for this, and then the second was my redo, because I didn't like how they were set up. So luckily I had caught it in time. These lines are going to be on the inside, they won't be visible from the outside. They're supposed to be the fold lines, so this little goof up right here won't affect the project. So I'll be able to keep this piece and redo it. Luckily I caught it right away, because that could have been bad if I just walked away. I guess that's why you stick with it and don't leave the room when you're working on your stuff. Anyways, let's go and do this again. Alright, so it came out alright. The zeroing appeared to be off just a little bit. These lines are just a little bit away from where I need them to be. So I think tomorrow I'm going to take another look at the file and just see if there's some adjustments that I need to make with how this is coming out. But I mean, it came out cool. I'm still going to take and bend this up just because I want to, it's a good opportunity to practice with it. But those two lines right there basically need to be over more. They're like 0.5 millimeter this way too much, but that's okay. I'll bend this one up, look at the file, see what I did. I think I might have to just combine the different G codes into the same file, but otherwise not bad. Not a finished result, but not bad. Alright, so here's the one that got messed up. The lines were off a little bit. And the reason for that is because I used two different files to produce what's called the G code, which tells the CNC machine where to go. So I ended up combining it all into one file so that I didn't have to reset the X and Y coordinates for the zeroing. So all I had to redo was the Z, which is the up and down. So as you can see, the bends came out obviously off because those lines were off. But what I also realized was that this needs to be a little bit wider at the bottom. I ended up making the measurements too small. And that again is because I'm just doing this off of pictures and off of a cab from the Ertl model. So I went in and made some adjustments to what I think it should be. And let's take a look at that. And here is the new one. Same process as I did before, getting everything set up, getting the wax held down in place, but this one came out much cleaner. And as you can see, those lines are nice and square because everything was lined up. So now the task of getting this out of the wax. We got most of the wax cleaned off here. It's definitely the hardest part about using that fixturing wax, is getting all of it off of there. Found the easiest way is to just heat it up and then wipe it off with a napkin, but if there's anything that you guys know of that would be more effective at getting that done, let me know. Alright, let's get this bent. Found the easiest way to do this now that I've added these groove lines is to just use a pair of pliers to aid in bending it. There's really no need to use the bending brake anymore, and the blade just gets stuck in the grooves anyways. I hope I'll be able to use this type of process for most all of my bending. I'm sure there's going to be situations where I won't be able to do that, but this has made a world of difference in the ease of bending. Grip it on this side of the line because there's less material over there, so I risk bending that. And just make sure this is lined up. Again, these cut lines really help a lot in making this easier to bend. I don't know if you guys are able to see that, but it closes up really nice and tight. Cool. Could certainly use some trim work. I need to take and cut these two wings down quite a bit because they're supposed to sit inside. Alright, I think I'm about ready to solder the back of the cab on here. I'm just holding it in place. The fitting process is definitely the most time consuming, but I would say that this came out pretty well as far as getting all the bends and everything lined up. The same process that I used for creating the top of the cab, I used to make the bottom of the cab. Very similar style. And it fits right in there like that. So the way this is going to turn out in its final bit is I will create some more components down here to help this lock in place, and that's where the seat and the interior and all those components will go together. And then this is going to have stuff on the bottom that will allow it to attach to the frame, and then during the final assembly I'll be able to just drop the cab top down on, glue it in place, and then install the cab guard down over that. But that's it. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one. I think we'll probably be knocking out the cab guard in the next episode. And here's the cab in its final form. No, it's not. Try it again.